Hi everyone, Dusty Rains here, along with Scout. You can see him in the background there. And we are adventuring in deep South Texas today. We are located currently in between Mission, Texas and the Rio Grande River. Actually, we're closer to the Rio Grande than we are Mission. And there's something very interesting here. We're going to look at an old Spanish mission. I think it's Spanish. I'm not sure. I know it's a Catholic mission. And we'll learn a little bit more along the way. Come on, let's go see what we've got. Now, the city of Mission has established a city park here. And there's a nice old plaque explaining that. And then there's restrooms here. And we swing back over this way. Nice grassy picnic tables, shade coverings, all that kind of stuff. Plenty of parking. As we walk up this brick path here, we are going to see some relics of some things that were here pre-mission day and while the mission was going on. Do you recognize what this might be? It is an oven. This is where a communal kitchen used to be. Used to be a lot of visitors here, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. It's now got some pack rats might be living in there, so you might want to be careful sticking your hand in there if you come by. Here's a historical marker talking about Juan Davis Bradburn. He was born in 1787 and died in 1842. He was born in Virginia, reared in Kentucky. He entered Mexico in 1817 with Francisco Mina's army to help upset Spanish colonial forces in the War of Independence. He became a naturalized Mexican citizen and in 1821 married into an aristocratic family. Bradburn hired Henry Austin to operate a steamboat on the Rio Grande in 1828. I'll guarantee you there's not enough water in the Rio Grande these days to run a steamboat, I don't believe. Best known as the Mexican commander at the Anahuac disturbances in 1830 through 32. He was promoted to general in 1832 and he died in 1842. The exact location of his grave is unknown. He reportedly is buried on the hill nearby. I don't know about a hill, but there appears to be a dike over this way. I had to drive on it on the way over here, had to take a detour, and had to deal with the Border Patrol. It's now a federal road because it's on federal land, being just north of the Rio Grande River. But they allowed me to pass because they realized I had to take a detour to get over here. There are a number of placards around here. This one talks about this Virgin Mary statue. They're kind of hard to read. Probably need to be refurbished at some point in time. Otherwise, I'd read it out to you. But it looks like that this is cared for. Now over in this direction, you can barely see some foundation bricks over here. This happens to be ranch headquarters. This is also the site of the fathers or priest residence, and after 1871, also the Lomita ranch headquarters. The first building which stood here was constructed of adobe shortly after the original chapel was built in 1865. A newer 5-room residence replaced it in 1899. The structure was damaged by a hurricane in 1933 and eventually torn down in 1949. Once again, look at the foundation. And there are gates to the main entrance over here, which kind of indicates to me that no overnight camping is allowed here. And there is the little mission church itself. It's nice they have these brick pathways to be able to walk on, because walking over here, as you can see, gets a bit deep, harder to walk through. Rain gauge, and then over in this direction there are 3 crosses placed out there by the trees next to the fence. And we'll get to take a look at this side of the church. Looks like it could use a little bit of love here and there. Nice flowerful shrubbery, bougainvillea, I believe. And there was a guest house, according to this placard, which is kind of hard to read, and it's got a bunch of bird poo on it. Says it's the side of the guest house at La Lomita, built of adobe at the same time as the cookhouse. And that, of course, would have been over there by the oven. And it housed transient visitors to the mission and oblates en route to other destinations in the valley. Like the other outbuildings of the chapel, it was torn down in 1949. Oblates, is that a new word for you? It was for me. I went ahead and looked it up, so we'd both be a little bit wiser by the time this video ends. This happens to be one of the largest and oldest mesquite trees that I have seen, I believe. Looks like part of it is split apart. But man alive. I want to give you an example of just how large this branch is. In West Texas, we don't see mesquite trees nearly this big. Not even close. Of course, mesquite trees were in South Texas long before they were introduced to the West Texas area. That one is a rather large one as well. All right, we can see that the door is open, but I think I would like to move on over to the front of the chapel. Church, chapel, mission. I guess the whole compound would be called a mission, would it not? It is a chapel, La Lomita Chapel. Original chapel at Rancho La Lomita in 1865 was built of adobe by the fathers and ranch workers. Upon the death of Mr. Gaillard in 1871, the ranch was willed to the Oblates. There that word is again. Okay, I'll go ahead and tell you. According to Webster Dictionary, an oblate is someone who has dedicated themselves to religious services, but they have not said their vows or given their vows or committed themselves to a monastic life. Well, the lighting is hard to see on that with the white wall. The first chapel was torn down in 1885, and it was not until 4 years later, in 1889, that the present Carrilla de la Lomita was constructed on the same site. The walls were built of sandstone taken from the nearby hill, of which we have not identified, and have never needed to be structurally repaired. After its abandonment in, can't read it, a new roof was put on the building in 1928. Once again, as you can tell, that sign is really hard to read. Once again, we have some pretty flowers there. Now we can read this sign a little better. So there is an ongoing Mass every Friday, except for on Good Friday. I did see a sign about that. It has been entered in the National Register of Historic Places. That happened in 1975. And here is an official plaque. And it is also an official registered landmark for the state of Texas by the Texas Historical Commission. And this mission was located on the Oblate Trail. Oblate? Correct me down in the comments below on how to pronounce that. From 1849 to 1949, 100 years. People trekking through here, basically from Mexico, and making their way to other places to spread the gospel for the Catholic Church. I don't know if you can see it or not. There is a bell up in the bell tower. There we go. Try to zoom in a little bit there. The lighting here today is just not that great. There we go. All right, I think it's time that we take this little walk and see if we can peek in here. You can look in the windows. I guess someone comes by this place daily, open and close the windows perhaps. It does have a shingle roof. And the door was open when I came here. Might be a little bit dark in here. We'll see how the camera adjusts. As you can see, there's a little bit of damage on the wall there as well. There's a window looking towards the crosses. And these little pews here with kneeling rails. They look to be about 6 feet long, maybe. Some nice, comfortable pillows for people who want to be a bit more comfortable in here. I am not Catholic, so I don't know if this is called a shrine. Here in the southwestern corner of the church. These doors are pretty interesting. It doesn't get really cold down here. And I guess back in the day, weather stripping and all that kind of stuff was not really heard of. Sure would let the skeeters in though. And here's a place where you can sign a guest register. It looks like they've got lots of old registers here in addition to new ones for people to sign in. record their visit, which I will do before I leave here. Oh yeah, this works out pretty well. The view from the back entrance of the, or I guess you would say front entrance of the church, since we came in the side entrance. Now let's take a walk up to the front. I guess the priest would give his remarks from here, and this would be the table where communion would be prepared. I guess that would be called an altar. And we've got all of these artificial flowers, photographs, Pope, Jesus, Mother Mary. Over in this corner we have a crucifix. And there it looks like is a wooden altar with a plastic bucket underneath, where I've seen those used before. Like I say, I'm not Catholic, but I've seen them used before in Catholic weddings, where the couple kneels down before the priest. And of course, we have candles. And the crucifix. Pretty little place. It's nice and quiet. There were two other visitors that came in after I got here, and they have since left. I've also taken some photographs and walked around a little bit. I did spend a bit of time trying to familiarize myself with what all is here. And let's see, which way shall we go from here? All right, let's continue walking down this path and get back to the front of the chapel. Once again, we have some very large trees, and looking up into the branches there, I believe I see some mesquite beans, if I can locate them. I don't think my camera is focusing very well, but there's some mesquite beans in the center of the frame there. So now I've got to say, this has got to be the largest mesquite tree I've ever seen. The girth of that trunk is 3 feet wide. Oh, and look, this one over here. Let that adjust a little bit. That's a big mesquite tree too. Wow. That is incredible. But there are these nice benches. Now that makes a pretty picture, doesn't it? Now, just to the left, you see 2 pickup trucks, and those would be Border Patrol. Like I said, that road that goes by here is now officially on federal land, and the Border Patrol is in charge of monitoring everything that passes on it. That truck you just saw pass belongs to the city of Mission. I want to be quiet a little bit here, see if we can pick up any natural sounds. All right, well, we've got at least one more thing to look at and investigate from the olden days. It's a little bit away from here, and it kind of makes sense. And I'm going to cut us off and rejoin you when we get to the last historical artifact that I could identify. Oh yeah, and on the way over there, there's a placard here. Once again, kind of hard to see because of reflections, cloudy skies, and all. It talks about Mr. Rene Gaillard once again donated all of this land on his ranch to the Oblate Fathers. And in addition to being a place of worship, it acted as a way station for oblates traveling on horseback between Brownsville and Roma. It was rebuilt in 1889, remained in use until 1911, when the Oblates completed a move to their church in the newly established town of Mission. At its height, the Capilla de la Lomita acted as headquarters for Oblate priests, serving 5 other chapels, 75 ranches, and numerous villages throughout the Hidalgo County area. Beautiful place down here. And over in this area, there's like a large open space, maybe for large gatherings. Looks like the palm trees over there have been planted, and there are gateways in this fence where people can move back and forth. Now, does that look familiar to you? Just standing from here, what would you guess it is? It appears on the right-hand side that there was also some sort of a sign explaining the story of this. That sign is now gone. Have you guessed it yet? Here, I'll give you a little bit of a clue. Now, there is a wooden post on the north side, and there is a wooden post on the south side. Imagine those being longer and then stretching over the top, being joined up, so then you can look straight down. Now, this grate here has been added. It did not used to be here before. And let's see if we can take a good look, see what's inside. If I can get the lens down in between these little squares. And there we are. It's a well, a water well. And it appears the water level is approximately 5 feet below the ground that I'm standing on. So, didn't have to haul that bucket up very far. And of course, it's certainly not in use these days, for good reasons. Probably wouldn't be very healthy at all. Give you a little look around. You see the park area where all of the picnic tables are, and there are places where you can cook a meal. There's trash receptacles at each one of the covered areas, and then there are some open picnic tables as well. So there we are, the story of the mission here. And if you know of an interesting location near where you live, or maybe a favorite place you like to visit in the American Heartlands, please send me your suggestions as to when is the best time of year to go visit, the location, and any information you can, and I'll see if I can't stick that on my schedule so that when I'm traveling, I'll be sure and drop on by. And you can send your suggestions to me by going to my website, which is listed in the description below this video. There, you can contact me directly. It'll wind up sending me an email, and then that way you can share lots of details without exposing it to anyone else. Thank you very much for joining me.